Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga. Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga. Jai Satchidananda Gaura Hari. Jai Satchidananda Gaura Hari. Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga. Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga. Jai Satchidananda, Jai Satchidananda. Jai Satchidananda, Jai Satchidananda. Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga. Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga. Jai Satchidananda, Jai Satchidananda. Jai Satchidananda, Jai Satchidananda. Jai Radha Vrindavan Chandra Radha Vrindavan Chandra Radha. Jaya Radha Vrindavan Chandra Radha Vrindavan Chandra Radhe. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev. Jai Om Vishnupada Paramahamsa Pravadachaya Stotadasata Shri Shriman Ishi Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Shri Gaur Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Navadvip Dham Ki Jai Ganga Maya Ki Jai Jamuna Maya Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Vrindavan Chandra Ki Jai Shri Gaura Purnima Mahamahotsav Ki Jai Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Nitai Gaura Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Guru. Lord Chaitanya is the living embodiment of all the scriptures demonstrated their essence in Chaitanya means life. Chaitanya Charitamrita means the characteristics of the life force in the context of immortality. It is He whom all scriptures have been endeavoring since time immemorial to proclaim, though not sufficiently able to do so. Today, with the eclipse, the crimson moon, which is actually in itself the fulfillment of thousands of years of prophecy in Western tradition. The final of a series of celestial events proclaiming the coming day of the Lord, when all who call upon his name shall be saved. It is very difficult to call upon the Lord with words that will truly be heard by him and reciprocated. And he taught us how to approach him. Tadiya means worship of those things that are dear to things, places, personalities, who are very dear to the Lord, which endears us, in turn, to the heart of the Lord. In the dramas performed at Chandrasekhar's house in Navadvip, one night, the Lord had informed the devotees beforehand that he would dance in the mood and attire of his various shaktis, energies, potencies. And the devotees were very elated to hear this. And then he gave the qualification. Only those who are in perfect control of their senses will be eligible to enter and witness this Leela. Advaitacharya was the first to say, that leaves me out. And all the other devotees followed suit. And then Lord Chaitanya, not able to tolerate seeing their disappointment, he proclaimed that by my potency you will all be great Mahagyogis tonight, and you will be qualified to observe. And in that, it actually lasted through the whole night. And the emotions were so intense that when the sun rose the next morning, Lord Chaitanya had to protect the sun from being burned to ashes by the glare of his devotees who couldn't bear that that night was over. And throughout that night, he brought to life in understanding, in emotion, in living reciprocation, the words Krishna sings in Bhagavad Gita, that I am the father, the mother, the nurse, the grandsire, which is similar to the instruction he gave the devotees, beginning with Haridas Thakur and Lord Nityananda, go preach. Bola Krishna Bhaja Krishna Krishna Koda Siksha Krishna Mata Krishna Pitra Krishna Pranadhan. So seeing the Lord reciprocating with each devotee perfectly according to their sentiments, they offered prayers to him accordingly, because throughout that night he revealed the personality, the moods of his Shaktis, and the devotees offered prayers accordingly. That you are, because, just to give a few, he began in the mood of Rukmini, and then went on to Mother Earth, the Earth Goddess, Durga, ultimately Srimati Radharani herself. With the sole exception of Brahmaji, everyone in this world comes in the same way, comes into this world by the same way. By dint of the love and sacrifice of a mother. And before we even took our first breath, she gave us hers, so that we would be able to open our eyes to see a privileged world of Mother Earth. And for our various mother figures, we say 7, but there's more. And in case anybody's wondering what this has to do with Gaura Purnima, Lord Chaitanya came to experience the love of his supreme consort energy, Srimati Radharani, by which he was able to understand the love of all devotees in all rasas for all time. For our mother, every birth we took was a struggle. And every mother, a hero, who seldom receives a medal, whose gifts are made, her sacrifice, her love is made out of the components of grief, hope, pride, healthy pride, and caring and sharing. The love of a mother never dies. That first personality who held us, raised us, carried us through storms we were never even aware of. In a world so conflicted, so troubled, so loud, some things remain untainted by ugliness. And foremost of all is a mother's love, the closest thing to spiritual affection that we'll experience in this world. Because she never lets go, even when her children do, even when they don't acknowledge or remember her, or live in a way that honors her. And that is what Lord Chaitanya was conveying in that drama. And I found that whenever you're trying to counsel, or whatever word you want to use, some devotee who's having issues with his brother, to say, that person has a mother. And it's remarkable how the attitude changes. Because the mother's love is so close to Krishna's love for us. Which is a reflection. We have so many mothers: biological mother, mother cow, nurse, wife of the king, wife of the Brahmin. And Srila Prabhupada taught us to pray first to Srimati Radharani, O Jagannatha, universal mother, mother of devotion, Bhakti Devi. Please remember me to your Krishna, because Krishna is yours. So, amongst the gifts Lord Chaitanya came to bestow is Radha Dasyam. To contribute and participate in the love of Srimati Radharani. And this is a very essential theological point, because we're jivas. That means we're insignificant in every way. How much love can we actually offer to Krishna? How much of his love can we imbibe in reciprocation? It's insignificant. Through Radha Dasyam, Lord Chaitanya's gift and message, our devotion is offered through Sri Guru, Parampara, Gaurnitai, to Radha and Krishna. And we tap into an infinite ocean of love of Srimati Radharani by approaching Krishna through her. And Lord Chaitanya is glorified by Srila Rupa Goswami and others as the most magnanimous avatar. Why? Because he came to bestow the love of Vrindavan, that affection that Krishna cannot live without, cannot step outside. Srila Prabodhananda Saraswati glorifies Vrindavan as more affectionate than millions of mothers. Manifestation of the internal potency, which is Swarup Damodar's explanation for Lord Gauranga. The nature of the internal potency. The supreme love of Radha and Krishna is the interaction of the internal potency with the Lord. Though Radha and Krishna are one in principle, they have separated themselves eternally. And now, those two, Radha and Krishna, potent and potency, energetic source and divine energy, have united as one in the form of Lord Gauranga. I bow down to him who has manifested himself with the complexion of complexion and love of Srimati Radharani, although he is Krishna himself. Amongst the various biographies of Lord Chaitanya's Leela, Srila Prabhupada is very delighted to sing the bhajans of Lochan Das Thakur, who said that he's written a very famous book. Lochan Das Thakur was born around 1520, disciple of Narahari Sharkar, whose glories we sing every night in Gaura Arati. Narahari Hari Kari Chamaradulaya. That in that Gaura Arati, Narahari Sharkar is waving the chamara, very intimate associate of the Lord. So his disciple, Lochan Das Thakur, wrote Chaitanya Mangal on pieces of bark. And it's very unique amongst the biographies, which we should consider today. Srila Prabhupada emphasized Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita because Kaviraj Goswami is such a master theologian to convey the depth of Lord Chaitanya's gift in an unprecedented way. Whereas Vrindavan Das Thakur excels in descriptive details of the Leela. And Lochan Das Thakur, like his preceptor, a musician, was endowed with preeminent skills to touch the hearts of the even common people in their own vernacular, simple Bengali. Sung in various enchanting ragas to evoke from us and invoke from the Lord a rasika experience with the intention of impressing upon the world the divine character of Lord Chaitanya, who at that time was not all that well known. He wrote his biography based on Murari Gupta's narration in response to Damodar Pandit's request. And he begins the biography with Sri Advaitacharya worshipping Madhusachi's womb. And then he goes on to tell how Narada Muni, traversing the universe, chanting, Radhika Raman Jaya Radhika Raman, Radhika Raman Jaya Radhika Raman, was feeling such compassion, seeing the worlds devoid of the holy name. And he concluded that I must bring Krishna into the mortal world to reestablish Sanatana Dharma. So he went to Dwarka, in the spiritual world, Upper Dwarka, where he found that Krishna and Rukmini were experiencing some rasa. Rukmini was crying uncontrollably, and Krishna couldn't understand why. He could not appease her. So he started asking, what is it? Are you still upset about the time when I joked with you? Or have I done something else wrong? And then her reply was beautiful. She said, you know everything except the heart of your lover. Then she said something more wonderful. The only way you can understand is to cultivate Radha Bhav. Then you'll understand my heart. And yet it mystifies me, Rukmini is saying to Krishna, Dwarkadish, how Radha's love binds you so perfectly. And, Rukmini would hear Krishna throughout the night calling the names of cows, not the Dwarka cows, Vrindavan cows, and gopis. And she said, when you chant Radha's holy name, the tears flow incessantly from your eyes. And that, to experience her love, her nature, her identity, is the only way that you'll understand what I am feeling. Just then, Narada Muni arrived and confided in Krishna his deep distress that I can't hear your holy names as I traverse the universe. And then Krishna, between Narada's appeal and Rukmini's counsel, concluded that I will have to descend in the mood of my own devotee. And he prophesies, just like the crimson moon in full eclipse tonight is the culmination of 5,000 years of repeated prophecies in the West. And add to that because those prophecies proclaim, herald the day of the Lord, when all living entities will be saved by taking to his holy name. That's Western prophecy, interspersed over 4,000 years by various prophets and even Jesus himself. So Krishna proclaimed before Narada Muni and Rukmini that I will inaugurate the Sankirtan movement, implying that he would fulfill both of their desires by doing so. And when he said that, he turned golden in complexion. And Narada Muni, as tears flooded his eyes and he fell unconscious, when he came back, the Lord had withdrawn that golden complexion. And he told Narada Muni, proclaim throughout the universe that I will soon advent. Tell Uddhava, Brahma, Shiva, to remember Garga Muni's words, that even though the Lord is known as Triyuga, he does have a secret confidential form in the Kali Yuga. So he comes in the different yugas as Shukla, Rakta, Shyama, Krishna, which makes you wonder, why is he proclaiming Krishna for the Kali Yuga? This is Garga Muni, at the name-giving ceremony in Nanda Maharaj's cowshed. Your boy, Gopal, will come in the 4 ages as Shukla, Rakta, Shyam, Krishna. So he's putting Shyam in the Dwapara Yuga and Krishna in the Kali Yuga, also correlating to their complexion. Why is he referring to the Yuga avatar for the age of Kali as Krishna, as dark? Because even though outwardly he's Krishna with dark complexion, there's an inner golden effulgence, which eclipses that darkness. So in the four ages we have Hamsa, Krishna Garva, Krishna, and Sri Gauranga. So continuing to travel throughout the universe, Narada Muni came to Upper Golok, which was more effulgent than millions of moons, and fragrant with the scent of Krishna's lotus feet, which drew him through a forest of kalpavrikshes, where all the trees were filled with birds chanting Hare Krishna. And then Narada remembered and understood. Uddhava wanted to take birth as a creeper amongst this forest, to be blessed with the dust of the devotee's feet upon his head. Proceeding to the inner portion of Golok, he found Krishna with that same golden effulgence he saw before in Dwarka, but this time it wasn't a fading vision. He stayed golden. Narada Muni fell unconscious and just overwhelmed with ecstasy, and the Lord bathed him with his tears, bringing him back to life. To hear the Lord satisfy his yearning by explaining that I will come as you like in the Kali Yuga to kill the demoniac mentality, not to kill the entities themselves, just their demon-like propensities. I won't come with weapons. I will be armed with the supreme potency of my own holy names and devotees who come bearing love for me. And even though some jivas may flee to far-off distant lands to try to evade the Sankirtan movement, I will send more Senapati Bhakta, which means my field commander of all the devotees, to chase after those living entities in the foreign countries and deliver them on my behalf. So following the Lord's instructions, Narada Muni began going to the devotees, instructing them to descend on earth in preparation of Lord Gauranga's coming. Narada Muni, of course, came himself as Srivas Thakur. Karnadakshay Vishnu as Advaita Acharya. Lord Balaram is Sri Nityananda Ram. And Katyayani as Sita Devi, meaning Advaita Acharya's wife. Now, think about that. Karnadakshay Vishnu had come in the form of Advaita Acharya, who was already promoting Sankirtan as a Yuga Dharma. As Karnadakshay Vishnu, he's fully competent to establish the Yuga Dharma. But what he saw, and that's this Kali Yuga, when he came and observed it, this Kali Yuga is the worst of all. The symptoms prophesied for the far-off end of the age are already prevailing prematurely in Navadvip, of all places, the Lord's own abode. And he saw this Kali Yuga is so exceptionally degraded. The one exceptional Kali Yuga within 1,000 that is so degraded that only if the Lord comes in his original form to distribute the love of Vrindavan in the sound of the Mahamantra can these living entities be saved. And Lord Chaitanya was also thinking that when a disease is extremely serious and terrible, then a most potent remedy is needed. So the Lord concluded, I will reveal my holy Dham, divine name, and spiritual associates. How? That was Advaitacharya's great dilemma. How to bring him down. Then that sweet verse from the Gotamiya Tantra drifted into his mind. If one offers me a mere palmful of water and tulsi leaf, I will be, once again, it's Tadiya, I will be conquered by his devotion and fulfill his desire. So Advaitacharya commenced worshipping his Shalagram Shila on the bank of the Ganga in Shantipur. And at night, or just before sundown, when the whole surface of the Ganga was blanketed by all kinds of flowers from all kinds of devotees and Shaktas and others, concluding their puja by entrusting the flowers to the river, in that blanket of multicolored flowers, the Tulsi Manjari drifted right to Mother Sachi, who was bathing at that time, and touched her womb. At which time, Vishwarup entered, Lord Chaitanya's older brother. Now, when we celebrate days like today, we're enjoying the fruits of thousands of years of sacrifice by so many devotees to bring this gift to us. Mother Sachi had previously given birth to 8 daughters, whom she all left just after delivery. And that's extremely traumatic to a mother, losing 8 daughters in a row, year after year. Their faith never waned. So now Sankarshan has entered the womb of Mother Sachi. Those 8 daughters are the 5 gross and 3 subtle casings over the soul, as well as the universe, which keep us incarcerated. So when they were cast off, similar to Krishna, whose mother Devaki had given birth to 6 sons, which are the archetypal demoniac mentalities, Kam, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsarya, had to be cast off before Shesh would appear within her womb. So here we have Mother Sachi. After losing 8 daughters, she's pregnant with Vishwarup, and enjoy great joy and gratitude, worshiping the Lord with renewed devotion. So Vishwarup took birth about 10 years before Lord Chaitanya and was so saintly and so exclusively focused on spiritual topics and practices. He was very drawn to Advaita because, now remember, Advaita's continuing to worship his Shalagram Shila with Tulsi leaves, like at least 5 years after Lord Chaitanya took birth, because by his deluding potency, nobody could understand who he was, Krishna of Golok, come as Nimai of Nadia. So Vishvarupa was so attracted to Krishna, Advaita, because he was worshiping still, well, not still, but many years thereafter. And he was thinking, they call me Advaita Simha. And that name will be appropriate as his roars, like a roaring lion, roaring the holy names which resounded throughout the universe and echoed even in Vaikuntha. And between his pujas, he was giving shelter to the devotees by immersing themselves in Bhagavad Gita. And this continued years after Nimai was born. So as you know, Nimai took birth in the lunar eclipse because Krishna tends to show up and it's really dark and hopeless and helpless. That's when he's about to appear. Krishna was born at midnight in a dungeon, dark and dreary, where Gauranga took birth when this lunar eclipse plunged the earth into darkness. But somehow, the effects of that eclipse induced not only devotees, but also Muslims and non-devotees, because an eclipse is considered inauspicious. There's this darkness. So what do? Chant Hare Krishna. He first caused the advent of his holy name, and then within the ocean of Sankirtan, he appeared himself as the son of Sachi. So even after Nimai was born, Advaita's hearing, Vishvarup is hearing Advaita crying out like a child for mother and father to descend, for calling the Lord to descend. And absorbed in such ecstasy, Advaita and all of his associates just forgot the external world. So deeply immersed in Nam Sankirtan and scriptural study. So Vishvarupa would forget to go home to Mother Sachi's for lunch. And Mother Sachi she's a mother. So she sent Nimai, go remind him it's lunchtime. So in Advaita's compound, he had two houses, one in Shantipur, one in Navadvip. So in Navadvip, when Mother Sachi sends Nimai to go bring Vishvarupa home for lunch, in the midst of roaring kirtan and the depths of Srimad Bhagavatam, when the devotees are all so immersed in the internal energy of the Lord, oblivious to the outer circumstances, when Nimai entered the compound, everything stopped. The roaring Sankirtan fell silent. Everyone's eyes turned toward Nimai, exclusively focused on him. And he would take Vishvarup's chadar and pull it gently. Come with me, Mother Sachi is calling, we have to go home. And then when Nimai and Vishvarup exited, and the devotees were perplexed. How? When he entered, we forgot the holy name, we forgot the Bhagavatam, we were exclusively focused on him. And Advaita said, he's not an ordinary baby. So meanwhile, at Sachi's house, since he was a baby, since he was born, he would just incessantly cry and nothing would pacify him except the holy names. And the devotees quickly learned, when he's upset, when he's crying, chant Hare Krishna. And when they would chant, he would dance in such a way that their minds and hearts were totally enchanted, and they felt that the whole creation is dancing and swaying to his movements, dancing with him. And then, as he grew up a little bit, and he was able to, then he did something interesting. In the midst of Sankirtan, he would dance in the center with all the ladies around him chanting, and then he would just scamper off and just into the streets and beg from anyone and everyone sweets. But even though he's the butter thief, he didn't steal them for himself. He came back to Sachi's house, and in the midst of the circle of ladies chanting Hare Krishna, he distributed those sweets to everyone who was chanting, to assure them and us, if we simply dedicate ourselves to his Sankirtan movement, he will take care of all our needs. And he would usually sleep with Mother Sachi in her room. And one night, Mother Sachi was awakened by these subtle forms of luminous personalities dancing around Nimai. And it frightened her. She said, go to your father. So he scampered off to Jagannath Mishra's room, but they both heard that in rhyme with his footsteps, they heard ankle bells jingling. He's not wearing ankle bells. Where's his sound coming from? Sweeter than music. And they concluded that Gopal must be residing within him. And Mother Sachi was really preoccupied with purity. A little bit more than Nimai would prefer, because she wasn't really seeing the deep internal dynamics that he was promoting. So he would run out and embrace the Chandala, then run to hug Mother Sachi, and she'd run and hide, thinking that she'd be contaminated. And then the day he brought a puppy dog home to really make his point. He was playing with his friends, and a litter of puppies went running by. And the boys started, arguing amongst themselves, I'm going to take this puppy and you can have that one. And Nimai already picked his out. I'm taking this one. And when Mother Sachi saw Nimai come home with a puppy, whom he brought right into her immaculately, externally pure household, she was not happy. So Nimai told her that, he's mine, I've claimed him, inferring that don't meddle with my puppy. And he even said he's the best of the puppies. And all Mother Sachi could think, because, Nimai tied him up, made a little leash, tied him to a chair. He said, I'm going to bathe in the Ganges now. And he ran off. So Mother Sachi was thinking, all I have to do is untie it, and then he'll. But scenes of Nimai's temper tantrums made her very reluctant. But she couldn't handle the thought of a puppy in the house, so she untied him. And he ran off to find his mother. But when he ran off, just by the touch of Nimai, that puppy began behaving in a most unusual way. He started in the sweetest ragas chanting Hare Krishna. As he wandered through the streets, attracting a big following, leading Nam Sankirtan through the streets, this puppy. And when he reached the town square and he stood up his hind legs with his front paws outstretched to the air and his eyes turned upward, in great ecstasy, he just fell over backwards. And he appeared to be lifeless. So the people were moving in. Did he faint in ecstasy, or is he dead? As he came in closer, an effulgence in the sky, brighter than the sun, and yet cooling like a moon, and clearly descending. And they looked. It's a chariot. The chariot landed right next to the puppy. This is Lochandas Thakur's description, by the way. And the passengers of that chariot stepped down, picked up the puppy, and by their touch, he became human. And he was really humbler than a blade of grass, just crying in gratitude for the experience thus far, and it's not over. The celestial, effulgent personality who emerged from the puppy boarded the chariot, and it began to ascend. Now, by this time, in the crowd who was chanting Sankirtan, there were devas and sages intermingling, and they could see that when the chariot ascended, it bypassed the heavenly planets. Penetrated the coverings of the universe, and they could see it all. The fortunate ones, bypassed Vaikuntha and went straight to Goloka Vrindavan, where it landed. And the sages within the assembly started a kirtan of their own, glorifying Nimai, by whose touch this puppy attained to Goloka Vrindavan, which is hankered, a destination hankered by Brahma, Shiva, Lakshmi, but seldom achieved, was granted to a humble puppy dog. So they were glorifying Nimai for his effects. And then one day, to really make his point about internal purity, he was always getting in trouble with Mother Sachi, and she felt so obliged to discipline him. And he knew how to escape. So one day, they didn't reuse cooking pots. They were clay pots, and after an offering, they just threw them into a pile. Broken cooking pots with soot on the outside. So he climbed on top of the pile of broken pots, knowing that Mother Sachi was not going to come and get him there. And she was trying to lure him down. I have to give you a bath. We're all covered with soot. But then she saw that even though he was smeared with the black soot from the broken pots, he was more attractive than ever because he had a Shyam complexion with an internal golden aura that made him more alluring than ever. And then he started preaching to Mother Sachi like Kapila to Devahuti. And after enlightening her, all she could think of is, now you have to take a bath because you're covered with soot. And then at night, he would get on top of Mother Sachi and take her hands and wave her arms back and forth like a pendulum. And she said, this is on top of everything else. So finally she asked him, are you mad? Because she was so confused, because he would seem at times like a sage, just imparting the essence of deep wisdom to her, while other times, bringing a puppy home. And so she finally just asked, are you mad? He said, no, Mata. Everyone else is mad except me. Oh, no. So she called a council of the matrons, senior Vaishnavis, and confided that I don't know what to think of my own son. And then she started recounting, the luminous figures dancing around him. And then they concluded, it's some tantra. This is very dangerous. So Mother Sachi, you must worship Goddess Shasti, village deity who protects young children. Just worship Shasti with a very appealing offering, and she'll protect your son. So Mother says, I'm really afraid to, because if I make a special offering to Goddess Shasti, I'm afraid Nimai is going to just pop up out of nowhere and eat it. He does these kind of things. So this is really serious. But just be real careful. Set up an altar in the woods, make sure he's preoccupied in play, sneak off. So she did. She's running through the woods with her sari covering the offering. And she's thinking, it worked. I actually evaded Nimai. But as soon as that name entered her mind, guess who appeared on the path right before her with arms outstretched? Nimai, what are you doing here? Mother Sachi, what are you doing here? And what is that you're hiding under your sari? I bet it's sweets. And I'm starved. You don't feed me. The hunger pains are burning my stomach. You have to feed me right now. She said, just wait till the offering is done and I'll give you the whole... No, I can't wait. He grabbed the tray from Mother Sachi and ran off, eating sweets as he went. So, in lieu of the offering, Mother Sachi came before the altar and prayed, Goddess Shasti, you gave me this son. I can't control him. Please protect him. And then, from the day he went to school, his teachers realized that you can't teach this child anything. He knows everything. And he was quickly promoted to the, whatever you call the main professor. And Murari Gupta was in his, not his class, many classes ahead of Nimai. Murari Gupta had been in that school for years. So Nimai is, his junior. But in school, he was so attracted to Murari Gupta because he's Hanuman.
And he would joke with him, Murari, you're a Vaidya, Ayurvedic physician. You're not going to learn about mucus, bile, and air by studying Sanskrit. And then Murari would get a little upset, and he'd turn. But that was just one thing. Every day he would do anything and everything to provoke Murari to get upset, because that anger of Hanuman was so beautiful. He wanted to see it, but he couldn't do it, because every time Murari turned and saw Nimai's moon-like face, he would just melt, and he couldn't get upset. But then one day, when Nimai was wandering with his students, still just a little boy, he came upon Murari Gupta wandering with his students and teaching Yoga Sutras with really animated gestures and very feeling emotion, teaching the Yoga Sutras and emphasizing verses like Soham, I am he, I am Brahman. And then Murari and his students heard uproarious peals of laughter behind them, and they turned around. It's Nimai with his friends, mimicking with audacious exaggeration Murari's moves and verses, Soham, Soham, Soham. And the students couldn't control themselves. They were laughing so hard. And then Murari finally Nimai, he cracked that composure. Murari turned around. Who is this? Is this the son of Jagannath Mishra? No, can't be. Jagannath Mishra is such a refined, cultured Brahmin. He would never have a son who's so disrespectful to the Brahmins. Now, Nimai was not going to allow his father's name to be dragged into this exchange. So he said, okay, Murari, go home, and when you're having lunch today, you'll hear what I have to say. So Murari went home, and he was about to eat lunch. Well, meanwhile, Nimai went home and dressed himself so extravagantly with a triple top knot and ankle bells and pearl necklace, gold ornaments, all enhancing his natural beauty and charm. He looked something like Lord Ramachandra. And then when Murari was taking prasadam, he heard his name again, Murari. And he looked. It's Nimai. He's all dressed up in a way that he looks like Lord Ramachandra. And he was approaching Murari with some obvious, clear intention in mind, but not sure what it was. And when the form of Nimai was looming over Murari's lunch, he began to perform a most unsavory rite, which means he passed water right on his lunch. And Murari jumped, shame on you, what is wrong with you, Nimai? And then Nimai started dancing. It's all one. Soham, I heard it from you. Soham, it's all one. Everything is Brahman. Why are you so disturbed? And he was just dancing around the room. And he told them, just give up karma, gyan, yoga, and worship Radha and Krishna. Why are you hurting the divine couple by neglecting their holy names in preference of these other practices. Then Nimai ran out, and Murari had a revelation. Of course, Advaita's been calling the Lord to come. We didn't realize he is already here. So then Murari ran to Mother Sachi's house. And Mother Sachi and Jagannath Mishra are kind of like lovingly competing to who gets to take him on their lap and for how long before they have to share him with the other. So Murari's looking. Jagannath Mishra holds him in his lap. Mother Sachi takes him in her lap. And then he couldn't control himself. He fell flat on the ground. Namo Brahmane Devaya Go Brahmane Hitaya Chakaritaya Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Murari Gupta, the senior Vaishnava, laying prostrate before Nimai, sitting on Mother Sachi's lap, pulling her sari over in front, hiding behind her veil because he was so embarrassed. And Jagannath Mishra, what are you doing? You are a senior Vaishnava. Why are you offering prayers to my son? This is inauspicious. You should be blessing him. And Murari looked at Jagannath Mishra and said, you don't know, but you will know who your son truly is. Then he left, and Jagannath Mishra looked at Mother Sachi. What did he say? So then he went and told Advaitacharya what he had experienced. So Advaitacharya when Nimai would come, take Vishvarupa home, Advaitacharya felt his heart had been taken captive by this 4-year-old mischievous child who comes to take Vishvarupa home for lunch every day. So when Murari is telling him what just happened to him, Advaita said, I'm starting to get it now. When Nimai enters our assembly, his enchanting beauty, his irresistibly alluring smile, when he repeatedly would turn around, he's leading Vishvarupa out of the house, but he repeatedly turned around and smiled at Advaita. And by that smile, Advaita, the great Karnadakshay Vishnu combined with Sadashiv, was paralyzed by the sweetness of that smile. So then one day, Nimai took Gadadhar with him to go observe Advaitacharya's devotions. And they're kind of hiding and watching. Advaita's worshipping Tulsi. And then he turned to his Shaligram Shila with the Tulsi leaves. He's calling, "Oh Krishna, please descend to this world." And then he saw Nimai through the corner of his eye. And he was stupefied by his charm. And Lord Chaitanya, overwhelmed by the devotion of Advaitacharya, fell unconscious. And then Advaita, in the mirror of his heart, he saw it all, that I'm worshiping Shaligram Shri with Tulsi to beseech the Lord to come. He's already here. So he took his arti tray, just turned around and started worshiping Nimai. And Gadadhar is watching. What are you doing, Advaita? Worshiping this little boy? Advaita turned to Gadadhar. How long are you going to think of him as an ordinary boy? And then it dawned on Gadadhar. You mean he's the Lord you've been calling all this time? He's already here? Then Nimai came back to consciousness. Advaita put Nimai's, the dust of his feet on his own head. And Nimai, what are you doing? And Advaita said, you, Nimai, hold Krishna captive in your heart. And I'm doing this to cross over the ocean of nescience. Then it really dawned on Advaita. He said, now I know who you are. You cannot hide from me anymore. But the nature of Yoga Maya is that unless the Lord reveals himself, no one can know him for who and what he is. So once again, Advaita started having his doubts. I was convinced he's Krishna himself. But how can this be? Little infant running naked in the streets? So that's when he went back to Shantipur and began teaching his Yoga Vishishta seminar, knowing if he's my Lord, he will come to me. And there's nothing that attracts him like Mayavad. So he's teaching Yoga Vishishta from an impersonal perspective. So Nimai one day, and this is later after Lord Nityananda had arrived, hey, I wonder what Advaita's up to. We haven't heard anything about him lately. Then they heard that he's teaching monistic doctrine. The impersonalists are elated, but the devotees are perplexed. They said, well, let's go visit him. So on the way, they stopped at a devotee's house. Hridaya Chaitanya's temple, actually. And they asked, or he asked them, have you heard that Advaita's preaching monistic philosophy? Gauridas Pandit said, yeah, I heard that. And I asked him about it myself. And his response was he revealed his six-armed form. And they all started laughing like it was so humorous. But then he got mad again because he remembered, and then he proceeded, what happened at Shantipur after that. But before we transition out of the childhood pastimes, which we'll emphasize today, not go further, a wonderful event when a pilgrim Brahmin who had dedicated his life to pilgrimage, Padasevanam, arrived at Jagannath Mishra's house, chanting incessantly the Lord's holy name, engulfed in a golden effulgence, intoxicated with divine love, with eyes half closed, and a little deity of Gopal in a sack he carried on his chest by the string over his neck. And overwhelmed by the exquisitely saintly demeanor of this pilgrim, Jagannath Mishra greeted him lovingly, washed his feet, offered him a seat, and he asked, "Where's your residence?" He said, I'm not interested in a residence. I just wander the world chanting the holy name. And Jagannath Mishra said, "It's the great fortune of the world that you don't consider any place your home, but you travel to bless others with your bhakti. And now, I'm most fortunate that you've come to my home. So, may I cook for you?" And the Brahmin said, I usually live in the forest, so I usually only eat roots and fruits, which I offer to my Gopal. But Jagannath Mishra said, I would really be honored to cook for you. He said, well, then why don't you just, offer me some ingredients, I'll cook for my Gopal. Take his remnants. So Jagannath Mishra cleaned the kitchen and arranged everything for the Brahmin to cook, which he did. And then he placed his offering before his Balgopala deity, closed his eyes in meditation, and then he saw something, and he opened his eyes. He saw something internal, but when he opened his eyes, Nimai, little child, clothed only in the dust of the Dham, standing before him, eating his offering, with a big smile on his face. The Brahmin jumped up. Alas, alas! This mischievous child has spoiled my offering. Jagannath Mishra came running. He was so upset. He was going to seriously chastise Nimai, but the Brahmin said, no, he's just an infant. He can't know right from wrong. So chastising him will accomplish nothing. If you can just kind of keep him in his room so I can cook again, finish my offering. So Mother Sachi took Nimai in her lap to the neighbor's house, and all the ladies were immersed in entertaining him so he wouldn't go back to the Brahmin. But he was so clever. He somehow just slipped out of their midst. And when the Brahmin was making his second offering, and he felt the same sensation, opened his eyes and sees Nimai in front of him, smiling so lovingly while eating his offering, he jumped up, alas, alas. Now, Jagannath Mishra, the last time, he was just holding his head in his hands. I can't deal with this. This time, he was appalled. And he began chasing Nimai. And the Brahmin again pleaded, he's just a child, he doesn't know what he's doing. And Jagannath Mishra just sat down, holding his head. He was so disturbed. So then, they took Nimai into his own room, and they tied the door shut so he couldn't get out. And Jagannath Mishra sat down to guard the door. And the Brahmin began to cook again, and when he was making his offering, it was a repeat performance. And Nimai simply sprinted away. Jagannath Mishra calling out, thief, thief! And then he pleaded with the Brahmin, can you cook one more time? And he said, look, my destiny is clear. It's way past midnight. It's almost 2:00. cook the offering at this time of day? Clearly, Gopal wants me to fast. Jagannath Mishra was pleading with him. Then Vishwarup came before the Brahmin, very dejected. And Vishwarup pleaded, please, if a guest comes to our home and has to fast, this is just unbearable. Please cook one more time. And the Brahmin, gazing upon Vishwarup, said, I'm so fully satisfied just by gazing upon you. And Vishwarup said, only if you complete your offering can I feel satisfied. So, once again, Jagannath Mishra stood guard and watched until Nimai fell fast asleep. And then the Brahmin completed his final offering, and it was a repeat performance. And he cried out, alas, alas. And Nimai, because he didn't have to run from Jagannath Mishra now because he's asleep. Everybody's asleep. So Nimai stood there in front of the Brahmin and spoke, O pilgrim Brahmin, you are so magnanimous. You keep repeatedly calling me by my mantra, and I can't resist. What is the fault of mine? And then he revealed his 8-armed form, holding conch, club, disc, lotus, butter in one hand that he was eating with the other hand, and the other 2 hands playing upon his flute. And Mother Sachi's entire house was transformed. It became a Kadamba forest, with each tree filled with birds chanting Hare Krishna, and a backdrop of Braj Bhumi with gopas and gopis and cows wandering all over. The Brahmin jumped up and fell unconscious. Up again, unconscious again, many times, overcome with spiritual emotions and tears flowing from his eyes. And Nimai, as the Brahmin clasped his lotus feet, said, O Brahmin, many lifetimes you have served me with such devotion. Do you remember the time you came to Nanda Maharaj's house and the same exact thing happened there? I remember. So I'm entrusting you with a revelation, and you must keep it secret throughout your life. I have come to initiate Prem Sankirtan. And you will see my pastimes unfold, but you are forbidden to share it with anyone, because he came to experience the love of Radha, to experience it. What is it that the devotees feel? If the pilgrim Brahmin, which he wanted to do, he wanted to tell everybody, Krishna has come, but he couldn't do it, because that would disrupt his experience of what Rukmini told him. Unless you become a devotee and experience Radha's love for yourself, you'll never understand me. So, in ecstasy, the Brahmin was crying out, Jai Gopal, glory to Bal Gopal, and he was singing and dancing and laughing, and he woke everyone up. And they ran to the Brahmin, and they could understand. He finished his offering. And that Brahmin took up permanent residence in Navadvip and came to Sachi's house every day at lunchtime to see his pastimes unfolding more. So since prophecy seems prominent today, beginning with the prophecy of the crimson moon in Western tradition. There is one great prophecy which Lord Nityananda told Jiva Goswami when Lord Nityananda, this was after Mahaprabhu left the world. Jiva Goswami, who, when Lord Gauranga visited Rupa and Sanatana at Ramakeli, Jiva was just a very young boy. And the Lord told him, study Vedanta from Madhusudana Vachaspati, because he heard Mahaprabhu's explanation to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. And even though he's teaching impersonalists and Mayavadis Vedanta, he's subtly affecting them with the hidden precepts of Gaudiya Vaishnava doctrine. So, study Vedanta under him from a Vaishnava perspective. So when Jiva Goswami came to Navadvip and was met by Lord Nityananda, they went to Mother Sachi's house. Vishnu Priya cooked. Mother Sachi, my dear child Nitai, I've already fed my Nimai, and when you eat his remnants, it makes your mother so happy. And then from Jagannath Mishra's house, the Yoga Pithi started explaining and taking him to, Advaita's courtyard, Srivas Thakur's house. And Lord Nityananda explained that Gaura Lila is the only treasure in the Kali Yuga because it qualifies us for topics of Radha and Krishna's Lila, which otherwise we have no access to. And then Vamsi Vedan joined their party as they started Parikrama. And Nitai introduced him. This is Jiva Goswami. This is Vamsi Vedan. He's Krishna's flute incarnate. And here's Srivasa's house where the kirtans resounded. Here's Advaita's where he worshipped Shalagram Shila, invoking the Lord. And eventually, Ganga will flood and immerse all these places under her water. But then gradually over time, Ganga's waters will recede, and the devotees' homes will manifest again, shining so effulgently. And in the center of Navadvip Dham, one outstandingly exceptional temple will arise to establish and broadcast Lord Gauranga's Vani as the eternal Dharma for all the world, for all time to come. Shimayapur Chandadaya Mandir Ki Jai. And then that was Srila Prabhupada's part of his mission. So Vrindavan Das Thakur tells us that those who are fortunate can see the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya unfolding even today. And in Srila Prabhupada's Leela, serving his mission, we experience that. You know, here in New Vrindavan, we commonly refer to it as Krishna's magic or whatever, which still occurs, but during the time of Srila Prabhupada's Leela, it was like living Chaitanya Charitamrita consistently. But Sambhog is nourished by Virpalamba. When Srila Prabhupada departed this world, and Vani Seva became the focus of our attention. That's a deeper dynamic. By Mother Sachi's request, after Nimai took sannyas, wanting to go to Vrindavan, Mother Sachi said, I can't live without at least hearing about you, which won't happen if you go to Vrindavan, but go to Puri, because devotees are coming and going from Navadvip to Jagannath Puri, and we'll hear about you. That hearing, your Leela, will sustain our lives. So he took up residence in the Gambhir, where he experienced the mood of Radha, going to see Jagannath as Krishna every day. But what he came to reveal and share, Radha Dasyam, reached its very pinnacle at Kurukshetra. Because when the Brijabasis came for the solar eclipse, in great anticipation to see Krishna again after 100 years of separation, only to find that this isn't even Krishna at all. Here you appear like a Kshatriya surrounded by war chariots and massive elephants. There's not a tinge of the sweetness of Vrindavan to be found here. And she, in the mood of Radha, Lord Chaitanya, before Jagannath, is pleading, come home. And he's giving so many arguments. And there, where out of necessity, our prospects reach their highest potential, because she had to be consoled. She came to meet the love of her life, and she finds the king of Dwarka. Where's that Gopal of Braja? And in that anguish of separation, to console her, even Lord Nityananda could not perform that role because he's elder brother, object of reverence for Lord Chaitanya. So there, when the highest prospect of Radha Dasyam found opportunity in consoling her in her grief, Lord Nityananda, who is Balaram, older brother, as younger sister, Ananga Manjari, teaching us that our highest prospects of entering into the depths of Krishna's mysterious heart is through Radha Dasyam. Because once again, Tadiya, we're jivas, insignificant, infinitesimal sparks of Krishna's glory. How much love can we offer him? How much of his love can we assimilate ourselves? But in Radha Dasyam, serving she who is most dear to Krishna, we are endeared to his heart. So this is the day during the lunar eclipse, Lord Chaitanya appeared in this world. Are there any questions or comments? Yes.
Thank you, Maharaj. What a wonderful, more than description of immersion in those pastimes. And I assume that most of those, or most of those are from Chaitanya Bhagavat?
Combination, mostly Chaitanya Manga and Chaitanya Bhagavat, because for the past few years we've so much emphasized Lord Chaitanya's Vani, what is the nature of what he came to give. So this year we're focusing on childhood pastimes, which is mostly a combination of Vrindavan Das Thakur and Lochan Das Thakur.
And thank you very much, because I had no idea of the extent by which devotees, even at Dvaitacharya,
5 years after Nimai's birth, continuing to cry out to Shalagam Shila, roaring like a lion, echoing through Vaikuntha, trailing off into sobs like an infant crying out to mother and father, at least 5 years after Nimai was born. Because if he wants to conceal himself, nobody can see. And if he wants to reveal himself, that's the nature of Yoga Maya.
Thank you for explaining that also, how unless it's revealed by Yoga Maya, there's no way.
So Yoga Maya is Sita Thakurani serving in Dvaitacharya, wanting to reveal the Lord. But, so when he went back to Shantipur and was teaching Yoga Vishishta, and then he actually tricked Lord Gauranga, he outsmarted him. And then, Lord Gauranga's knocked him off his high dais, pounced on him, punching him, slapping him playfully, like children, until he jumped up at Dvaitacharya. Where has your pretense gone that I am your worshipable senior? Because when they're playing like that, Nimai, I am the Lord who descended to this world to kill Kamsa and kill Jarasandha and kill Narakasura. Today I've come for Advaita. And that was it. It was too much. He couldn't control it. He jumped up and he's dancing. And he's an old man. He's dancing. And Sita's pleading with Lord, don't kill him. He's an old Brahmin. And he jumps up, dancing around. Where is that pretense that I am your senior and you take the dust from my feet? You just now proclaimed it to the world that you are Krishna. So that was the nature of the wonderful relationship between Advaita and Sita Thakurani. And she's Yoga Maya.
She's Yoga Maya, but she still didn't know before Advaita knew.
She did, actually. Because she came the night he was born, and she could understand. But she didn't say anything. She had to wait many years for him to come to the same conclusion. Kavi Karnapur gives a beautiful perspective. What happened today in Navadvip? That Kali, the personification of irreligion, held a council with his senior agents Kam, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsarya. Because they're hearing the kirtan. And Kali's asking them, how can this be? So 5 of them all proclaim that I will put an end to this. Lust, anger, greed, pride, and illusion personified tell how they'll make the devotees deviate, and they're bragging about their powers. But then when it's time for envy to speak, because all the others say, they explain how they make devotees fall down. And Kali is defeating them all. You don't know the nature of these devotees. You think they'll succumb to lust? They're so in love with Krishna, nothing else. Anger. Kali defeats them. They're going to use anger against you. Pride. These devotees are proud to be servant of the servant of the servant. Lust, anger. Greed. They're greedy for devotional service, and nothing else can sway them. Lust, anger, greed, pride. Illusion. And Kali said, these devotees are under the illusion that they're Krishna's mother or father or friend. The enticements of this world will not deviate them. And then at last, envy personified speaks. And Kali addresses him in a different way. He doesn't say they'll dovetail you to defeat you. He said, envy, they will kick you far, far away. You'll be dispelled by their love. So then, after that, Kali departs. This is Kavi Karnapur's perspective. Kali departs, leaving only the prayers of the Brahmanas rising in the night. Blessed is this holy eve, the night Lord Gauranga appears in this world, proclaimed by sages and scriptures as having the potency to kindle ecstatic love of Krishna. And hearing that truth, Kali vanished into the night. Kavi Karnapur's work is not exactly a biography, it's a drama. And in that particular chapter, Kali is the master theologian who speaks glories of Lord Gauranga like no one else ever has. All right? Thank you. Anything else?
Today is also moon eclipse. So would you like to say something?
What's that?
Today is also moon eclipse this morning.
Yeah.
Would you like to say anything? Like, is it has any relation, the Gaura Purnima and moon eclipse?
That's how we started. This crimson moon, it's called something different, it's not nice. Crimson moon, just say, red. There's at least, I think, 5 prophecies in Christian tradition. And the last one is crimson moon will proclaim in the heavens that a day of the Lord has come so that anyone who takes shelter of his holy name will be delivered. That's the Bible prophecy. Whereas in Gaudiya tradition, the full moon was too shy to reveal himself in the presence of the golden moon, so he hid himself in shyness in the guise of a lunar eclipse. And because of that, Hindus, thinking eclipse is inauspicious, it's darkness. Rahu is swallowing the moon, it's inauspicious. Take shelter of the holy name is our only hope. So while the Hindus are chanting Hare Krishna, and the Muslims came under the influence, when the whole world was chanting Hare Krishna, because of the eclipse, the full moon, he first caused the appearance of his holy name. And within that ocean of Namras, he then appeared himself. So, Western tradition, to some degree, is a reflection of what dawns in India. So even the Western world, they understand this crimson moon is prophetic. It proclaims the day of the Lord, when anyone who takes shelter of his holy name will be delivered. That's Bible. How much more are we grateful? Understanding the essence and depth and significance of the matter. And Nimai, he would make demands on Mother Sachi. I want the moon and the stars and the cloud that passed across. But Nimai, you have 10 full moons right on your feet, toenails. You have 10 more on your hands. And then you have a moon-like face. You don't need the moon in the sky. Just chant Hare Krishna. And then she would chant and he would be satisfied. He would make demands upon Mother Sachi that were just impossible to fulfill. Only usually the holy name, unless there was some other point he wanted to make. After Jagannath Mishra left this world, the acharyas, they either don't tell the story or they just abbreviate it. It is such pathos. Nimai crying, like Lord Ramachandra and the demise of Dasara. But after that, she's a widow. She has no income, no social security. Just this Nimai to raise and provide for by herself. And one day, he told her, I'm hungry. He said, okay, I'll prepare something for you really fast. Not fast, now. The idea he would have to wait for her to prepare sweets was unbearable. I said, no, I can't wait. I'm starving. So then he began to demolish the house. Started with the cloth. Every cloth he ripped into shreds. Every pot he smashed and broke on the floor. Whatever boga Mother Sachi had, which was just enough to feed him for a day, merged into a big mess on the floor. And he still wasn't satisfied. Started tearing apart the thatched roof of the house, knocking down the columns until there was just nothing left but wreckage of Mother Sachi's house. And when he totally demolished the place, he took a nap in the dust. Seeing that he was asleep, Mother Sachi ventured out and started cleaning up the mess. And then when he came to, he looked, and he felt kind of bad that he did that. And Mother Sati said, no, I don't feel bad. I just don't know how I'm going to continue to provide for you when you do things like this. He said, don't worry, Mother Sati, Krishna will provide. And he just laughed and ran off. A little while later, he came back. He was hiding something under his cloth, and he's looking around. Mother Sati, I'm going to show you the proof of Krishna's providence. He removed his cloth. There's a big chunk of pure gold. That didn't pacify her. That made her more uneasy. Where does he get it? Is he in danger? And it wasn't one time. Whenever we're really in dire straits, he does the same thing. He brings a big chunk of gold. What do I even do with it? She needed a few paisa to buy boga, a big lump of gold. Well, how am I going to get this converted, or whatever you call it, to actual currency? So she wasn't in less anxiety, she was in more anxiety. But that anxiety is the highest ecstasy, because it's totally immersed in Nimai's welfare and pleasure. Anything else?
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Thanks
Krishna.
for a wonderful class. So actually, touching on what you were just talking about, ecstatic love of God, right? How do you balance that, controlling the senses and seeing God in all living entities?
Controlling the senses and seeing God in all living entities?
Yeah, exactly. I guess part and parcel.
You don't need to balance, you simply integrate.
What was that?
You don't need to balance, you simply integrate. By love of God, because, and that's, once again, a component of the divine feminine. Lord Chaitanya's got 3 consorts, Shri, Bhu, Nila. Shri is Lakshmi Devi, his first wife. Bhu is second wife, Vishnu Priya, who's Sita from Ram Lila. Nila Shakti, Lila Shakti, is the Dham herself, another mother. When the Lord himself imbibes the divine feminine of his consort, and it's all integrated in him, what is really prominent is compassion. So when you have love of God, you naturally see the Lord in the heart of all living entities and want to serve them for their spiritual welfare. And as far as controlling your senses, paradoxically, it's so beautifully portrayed by Kali himself. The personification of irreligion is amongst the supreme theologians, explaining how lust, anger, greed, pride, and illusion are healthy means of dovetailing our Krishna consciousness. It's only envy that can't be dovetailed. But the love of God, because envy, it's not an affirmative reality. It's a vacuum left where love has withdrawn. So cultivate the love, and the envy is dispelled. So we don't really need to separately endeavor for anything else other than cultivating our love for Krishna, which is primarily through the holy name. Of course, if we're clearly deficient in some areas, that may need to be supplemented. But the holy name, in and of himself, is our complete and eternal shelter. And it adjusts everything. It harmonizes all our endeavors.